In this video, we're going to look at how to use Perforce with Unreal. We're going to specifically look at how to set up and configure P4D using DigitalOcean. We're also going to look at how to use Git P4 and also how to use Perforce with Unreal Engine. The two last topics might be covered in a separate video, just to keep the videos a little bit shorter. Okay, so quick intro to why we use Perforce. First off, Perforce is a version control system, which means it lets you manage and distribute files. It's also, luckily for us, it's free up to 5 users. Because in reality it's a commercial product, so usually you would have to pay for a license and such. But if we're 5 people, we can use it for free. It's also very good for project with large file sizes, and also has really good integration with Unreal Engine. And P4 is also widely used by Unreal Engine developers and other game developers. It's also very easy for artists to use, and it's like kind of known as an industry standard for within game development. So there's some more things we're gonna go through, like what Perforce can do, and here's just some example that I like to bring up or thought of. We can specify how files should behave with type map. What it does, it lets you, for example, lock binary files to limit someone from editing a blueprint, basically, and overriding another dev's changes if another dev is already working on said blueprint file. This, in my opinion, honestly makes it not necessary to have branches or streams, as they're called in Perforce, like in with small teams. Um, so it's kind of, the workflow is kind of different from Git in many ways, and but you might say like, oh, but what if I want to experiment with some crazy changes? Well, then you have something called you can shelving, or you can shelve change list. So basically, you set aside a set of changes that you can later on merge into your main branch, or yeah, main branch. Um, yeah, branch and streams is not always used in the same way as Git. In Perforce, you have you set up complex stream structures for different developer teams, or if you want to create release branches. So what I mean by that is, for example, let's say you have an online game and you have version 4.5 something, 4.6, and 4.7. Let's say you create streams for these versions, and then you have a main branch which can read from these branches but cannot write to them. And then below the main branch you have developer streams, developer branches, like for example audio, UI, and gameplay, and they can read and write through main. And of course you can set a lot of streams allows to set a lot of permissions, and also who can access what sort of files is contained within said branch and stuff. So it really, I mean, you could go really deep with this. Usually for our in purposes, it's not really necessary. Um, yeah, it also, like, let's just have a our own server with multiple projects, which is like good for control. Yeah, and something that I think is kind of interesting is we can also, with these like depots, basically repositories in Git, we can import these depots into other depots. So in my example, or in my project, we have set up I have a version of the Unreal Engine in a normal depot, and then I have a stream where I import the engine source into that stream. So, for example, other developers can access the engine files, can get the engine files, but they cannot change the engine files without special permissions and stuff. Um, that I can set up in the stream, like streams. it's kind of, there's a lot of things you can do with it. I'm not going to go too much into it, but there's a lot of possibilities for what you can do. There's also a way to set up permissions for users and create groups to limit access to certain files and folders, or to certain depots or whatever, or even maybe just have, if you want to have like just some testers so they can simply just read but not write to the files, to every file. Yeah, so that's enough of that. I'm gonna show you how to configure Perforce. And there's multiple ways to do this. So recently I saw a video from Unreal Engine where they do this through Amazon. I have not tested it, so I cannot say that for sure that this is gonna be free, but it seems like a good, like a different solution that is quite good. But keep in mind that if you want to do this, it's only the Perforce server which is free. The servers themselves are not free, so the EC2 instances are not free. As you see here, there's a total hour cost associated with it. There's also something called free tier. Basically, if you I don't know really how the model of Amazon works, but from what I understand, it's within a certain amount of time it is free, basically. But I cannot guarantee that this is free. So for this video, we're not going to use Amazon. But if you're interested in using Amazon, which is really good because they set up everything that I'm going to show you, they set it up for you. There's a good video on it that I can put down in the description. It's the Global Game Jam 2021 Remote Edition Education Live Stream, and I will link through the specific time where they go through how to set up Perforce. I'll also link the Amazon URL so you can get to this site. Yeah, I can not like fully recommend this though because I haven't tested out if it's free or not. So what we're gonna use is yeah, this is the video. We're gonna use DigitalOcean. DigitalOcean is one of the, I don't know, it's really nice in my opinion. It's quite good, and you can set up servers and everything, spin up, like they call it, droplets. If you're using DigitalOcean, usually you would get $100 of credits for free the first 2 months, and after that it will cost you likely between $5 and $14 a month, depending on what kind of server you choose and whether you want backups or not. So for the Programming 2 course, which you will go through, it will most likely cost you around $10 to $42, which is not bad in my opinion. You can also like share the cost between your team members if you want that. I mean, you can propose it. Yeah, and so I'm gonna link I'm gonna put that link down to DigitalOcean. This is to be clear, this is my referral link. You will get $100 on sign up, and of course you're just free to just type in DigitalOcean yourself in the browser, or you're at Amazon. I don't really care. All right, due to some very bad quality in the recording, I decided to re-record the whole thing. So to go back, or you have to download Putty because we're gonna have Putty Jam. So it's important that you download the 64-bit version. If you have Windows, of course, then install this one. After you have installed PuttyGen, you will then be able to open PuttyGen, open PuttyGen, and you will get this thing. Here we're gonna generate an SSH key. So press generate and then move around the mouse a bit to make it some more randomness. Then you get a key. So this is our SSH key. But first we have to make a key passphrase. This is important. So I will just make DigitalOcean test. And then DigitalOcean test. Of course, you make something different. And then it's just keep, like I forgot to say it before generating, but keep the parameters as the default parameters. And then I like to save it as a private key, because then you have to enter the key passphrase in order to access the key. Okay, they didn't match. Okay, whatever. Okay, and test. Let's do test. All capital letter test. Or just test this. Then test. Save. So this is now my passphrase. I'm gonna save it in users and then video key test. Okay. So now we have made the key. So now I saved it in the computer. You should do this good, so you always have this SSH key, so you don't lose it, or so you always can use it. Then you go back to your DigitalOcean account. You create a new project, enter the name. For now, I'm just gonna call it test video, and then P4D, education, whatever. It doesn't really matter what you say, and then skip for now for me. I don't think you will get that because I already have a lot of servers running, so that's why. Then you press get started with a droplet. Select Ubuntu and then 20.04 LTS. LTS stands for long time support, so it's good that you choose that one. And then select a plan that suits you. I recommend. I think $5 is fine. It's necessary. It's fast. It's enough space and everything for your programming 2 class. So it's perfectly fine to choose that one. Although if you want to use this for personal projects as well, you could up it to 10. Now, just select 5. And then you can share this between the cost between team members. Usually it will cost you around 10 to max $40 if you choose 10, the $10 version. So yeah, it's not that bad in my opinion. But yeah, it's gonna cost you probably $10 if you just $5 version, so you can share the cost between team members. And when we come here, you see we have to select an SSH key or make a password. I like SSH key because it's generally more secure. And then we do a new key, and then from our PuTTY key generator, we copy the whole SSH key and paste it in this thing. We give it a name, new video test, whatever. Doesn't really matter. And then you see this selected. So this is our SSH key. It's good. We choose one droplet. The host name can remain the same. And I think it's very good to enable backups. You don't have to do this, but in the case of I don't know, the server, you kind of have to go out of your way to fuck up the server, but to be just in case, because you're gonna get a grade on this project and everything, it could be nice to have backups. We create this droplet, and now we're creating a server. And there we go. Okay, so then you click on the server, you go to access, and then you see this launch recovery console. Launch this. You might have to reset root password, as I don't really know the root password, but the login is root. The password I hope is root. Let's see. No, it's incorrect. Okay. I'm not sure what the password is here, so we're simply going to close it. I'm going to reset the root password. This is going to reset the password and send you a mail. Okay, so now I have my password. Just copy paste what the password has been reset to, and then relaunch the recovery console and type in root, and then paste the password, Control W. It doesn't show it here in the console, but it's actually there. It's sort of like a protection for password if someone else is looking at your screen. So I press enter, then say you're required to change your password for the first time, and ask for your current password. So Control W again, enter new password. I'm gonna do test and test, and then test and test. Now we have successfully accessed our server, and we're gonna start downloading Perforce. So first of all, we're gonna make this. I hope we can zoom in. Yeah, okay, I can. Nice. We're gonna do sudo apt. I'll put these commands in the video description. So don't worry about that. Sudo apt get update this will just make sure we're updated. Then you copy the wget command and you paste it in. It's gonna get the Perforce installer from a fork I've created. And then you do chmod and then sudo install Perforce, and then it should start installing the server. Yeah, it's gonna ask you for a password. Just do something random. I'm gonna just do test. Just keep it simple, just in case you might need it. Here, you don't need to enter anything. Just press enter, 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 and then yeah, Y. Now, it might, after it's finished with all its thing, just let it do the things in background. After that, we're gonna test to log in to the server. If we cannot log into the server, be sure to go back into the console and type P4D. P4D. Yeah, now it's done. So you see it's booting from hard disk. Okay. Okay, should be finished. There we go. Now it's done. Okay, so now we have installed P4D, so Perforce server, onto our Ubuntu server. So now the server itself is completely installed. Now we only need to install programs so we can access and use Perforce. In order to use Perforce, we need to install P4V, the visual client, P4 admin, P4 command line, and P4 merge things. Just click on the link in the description. It will get you to this site. And here you just select your Windows, your platform, and then just download. Now, when you press download, it's going to ask you for information about a company and whatever. Just fill it in. It doesn't matter. Then you go through the installer process, and you will get P4 admin, P4V, and then the P4 merge tool, I think it's called. This one. I mean, the command line thing. So you have the command line, and then it's all good. Now the first user that logs onto our server will become the super user. So it's important that you are careful when you access the server. So launch P4 admin first. For you, you might not get this screen. I already have certain connections, so that's why. Just open connection and then paste in the IP that you copied from here, :166. 166 is the port of Perforce. Now after that you press new, and you're gonna be asked to create a user. So I'm just gonna do test I, and then whatever Isaac, and then test, and then test. And email, just write something. Tests. Doesn't matter. Save that. And then press OK. That's going to ask you if you want to become the super user. Just press yes to proceed. Now you can see test I is the super user. I can now create other users. I can create groups. I can create depots. Okay. So before we start using Perforce, it's important that we set up certain configurations in order to optimally use Perforce. So for this, click on the link, the Unreal documentation link. It should be this one. And as you see here, open connection, yeah, we can skip that. P4 type map. We want to set up the P4 type map. To do this, we open command prompt, and then that's annoying. And then we type in P4 set P4 user equals, and then our username. Mine was, just gonna double check, test I. Okay. Then P4 set P4 4, and then our server IP, shift insert, and then colon 1666. You don't necessarily have to do this, but if you have multiple servers, you certainly have to do this. And now P4 type map. You might not have need to use type in your password, so just do P4 type map and then test if that works. If not, just follow the documentation. Okay, I typed it wrong. Type map, and then you'll get this thing. Now, simply copy and paste this whole thing. This is configured for Unreal Engine and works perfectly fine for our intentions. Then Control S that, and then exit it. Now it should say type map save. Okay, so this is nice. Now we need to configure a command that makes it so whenever somebody types in our IP, they don't automatically create a user, because P4 is set up at the beginning that whoever knows your IP can automatically create a user for themselves. But as the admin, you want to have direct control of who can create the user. So in order to do that, you have to write down I got it right here. Yeah, so P4. So P4, I will paste this in, I'll put this in the description. Shift insert P4 configure set dm.user.no autocreate equals 2. Now, no one should be able to create a user simply by knowing our IP. So we can test this. Go copy your IP again, go to the visual client, and then put it in, and then 1666, and then remove Isaac test, then press new and try to create a user. Save and see user as it doesn't exist. So yeah, we can't, I mean, it gives a weird error message, but it basically just said we can't create a new user. So now that we know that works, that's really good. So we can go back to the P4 admin, and we can see we can now start creating stuff like a depot, which is a repository, and we can also add users. So here you go to file, add user, new user, and you add all things here, and give it a password, and then you give the username and the password to your team member, and also you give them the IP address and the port, so they can log in with the visual client. So I'm gonna log in with test I, okay, and I don't have to put in the password because usually it saves your connection. But I also forgot to, you have to set the password security level. Right now, no password is required. We can do one password required, strong, or ticket based. Just do something that works for you. I'll do set it to 1. And now we're within the visual client. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to look at how we can use Git P4. Specifically, we're going to look at how to auto-launch SSA agent in Git Bash. And also, we're going to want to take an existing Git repo and submit it to our P4 server. Because I know that some of you have already created a Git repo, and thus I would like for you, in order for you to transition over to P4, it's probably easier to know some Git P4 commands. And then we're also going to look at how we can keep those two repositories synced so that for example, professors can go when they're gonna look at your project, they don't necessarily have to have a user to your project, to your server. I mean, they can just look at GitHub and see all the changes more easily. After that video, we're gonna learn how to use Perforce with Unreal Engine and Microsoft Visual Studio. So we're gonna download the VS Helix plugin, Helix Core plugin, which is Perforce's plugin in Visual Studio, and learn how to use that. Then we're also gonna show you I'm gonna show you how to work with Perforce in the Unreal editor, and also learn more about Perforce and its functionality in general.